A very good morning. Such a privilege to be addressing all of you here. And let me begin by acknowledging this partnership. The Royal Society, United Kingdom, Department of Empowerment of Persons with Disabilities, jointly convened by the Quantum Hub. What we see here on the floor ahead of us, a civil society organization, one of the world's oldest scientific academies, and a department from Government of India. When all three of us subsets come around to a theme, it definitely tells us that there is something very important in the question of AI and disability inclusion, and that has moved from the margins to the mainstream. It is no longer a niche concern. It is a government imperative. 200 million. Now that's a number, that's a very conservative estimate of the number of Indians living with significant disabilities based on WHO's global prevalence figure of about 16%, though our census, which is widely quoted data and the only data available, 2011, talked about 26.8 million, a figure that everyone, experts or otherwise, acknowledge as severely undercount. And the gap between these two numbers, the 200 million as per WHO and the 26.8 million as per the 211 census, is not a statistical curiosity. I think it is a measure of invisibility and the acceptance of disability in a society like India. 3%, now that number is in some of the low income settings, the proportion of people who have access to assistive products. And in the high income countries, I'm told it's anything between 80 to 90%. For a country like India, and today, we are somewhere in between, probably closer to the lower end in the rural areas. 3.5 billion, another number. It is the WHO's projection of people who will need assistive technology by 2050 and not a very distant future. And this is the generation being born today. So the question here is not whether AI can help. It manifestedly can. The question is whether we can design, deploy, and scale AI solutions in the way that actually reach the people who need it the most, not in London, not in San Francisco, not in New Delhi, but also in Latur, in Siliguri, in Sambalpur. So I believe that India stands today not just as a consumer of artificial intelligence, but also as its architect. With the India AI mission, we are building the digital rails for 1 billion aspirations. However, as we discuss data, compute, and sovereignty, I must draw an attention to a critical demographic that comprises of these disabled people that still we don't have the actual count of. What I also want to ask the audience to give a thought to, and the panelists please, is about the risk of algorithmic exclusion. So if a voice recognized model cannot understand a disrupted speech, which is known as dysarthric speech, or if a hiring algorithm flags a neurodivergent candidate as unfocused because the eye movements are far too fast, we are not just failing to be accessible, but we are automating the discretion. So this is something that I would want all the minds in this room to put a thought to. We, of course, are at that point in life and in a stage in society where we are moving towards mandatory, non-negotiable guidelines for the ICT products, which would include websites, portal, apps, both government and private sector. We are talking about technical standards. We have an Indian standard. We need to make it completely mandatory, which is completely non-negotiable, and that has been the direction of the Rajiv Ratori case. And we as a department and as stakeholders are constantly striving to ensure that we do come about with such guidelines that are acceptable to the industry as a whole, but actually completely enforceable. And that there should be a mechanism to ensure that that enforceability plays its part very, very strongly. And I think with that, we also need to understand that AI should be AI for all, which means that not just solving complex problems, but building resilient AI ecosystems that are scalable, that's economical, and that spread to the wide corners of the country as a whole. That is a very important aspect that I would like AI entrepreneurs, inventors, and innovators to really think about. We as a department have been anchoring startups in the AI field. We have a strategic partnership with the Assistive Tech Foundation Bangalore. We also need to highlight the important work that our national institutes are undertaking using AI. The NIPID in Secunderabad developed the Indian Test of Intelligence, which is a culturally conceptualized IQ assessment tool and is now exploring AI-enhanced adaptive screening. We are also have very important startups that have shown commercial products like Annie of Tinker Labs. We also have Trestle Labs who have created Kibo. But the key to AI to bring about real change is to produce solutions that reach the length and breadth of the country, and something that I repeatedly will bring to focus in this discussion. While India's digital public infrastructure has put in place a great powerful advantage, we need to also build on it further. And I think it's immensely powerful to feel that how a visually impaired person in a small village in Kerala can now access government services through voice in the language that he understands. A hearing impaired farmer in Telangana, once they get real-time captioning in Telugu, on a 3,000 rupee or a 5,000 rupee smartphone is what would be required. I'm told in a report by the Royal Society that in the UK, people with disability would probably spend £1,000 annually or per month. But in India, a AI solution which is costing more than 5,000 also needs to be reworked. It needs to be economical, and that is what I would urge all of you to really put your minds together and think about it. Thank you for very patiently listening to me. I look forward to the discussions today, and let's make AI truly accessible. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Manmeet ma'am. So before the next presentation, we have a request from the photographer here that can we have a small speaker and panelist photo so that you may get it at the end of the session.
So, Chadish, why don't you also come in for the speaker?
What is the stand?
Yeah. I think Royal Society should also come in for this photo. Yeah.
I think everybody can just sit.
Chadish, why don't you join in for this photo?
Yes.
Yeah, stand next to me.
Oh, you want me over the far side?
Just a chair.
I'll stand here. Oh, where am I looking? All right.
Where are we looking? Okay. Okay, right in the middle. Yeah. Okay. There we go. Smile Agastya. Thank you. Thank you.
I would also like to point out that the sign language interpreter is standing on that side of the room. Now I'd like to call Professor Alison Noble, Vice President, the Royal Society, for the technical presentation.
Thank you very much, and thank you very much for the Quantum Hub for inviting us, and also for the Royal Society to partner on this. Can I have the next slide, please? So, for those of you who don't know, the Royal Society is the National Academy of Science for the UK. It's been going many, many years. It's known for its fellows. One of our most famous fellows is, in fact, Stephen Hawking, who, of course, himself was a disabled scientist. But the Royal Society, beyond having a fellowship, also supports grants and publications, also does some work in science policy. And I was going to touch on a piece of work in science policy that the Royal Society produced last year. Next slide. The report, and you've got the QR code here. This is actually the executive summary of this report. Its goal was to encourage more of inclusive development and adoption of digital assistive technologies. And this is across work, play, rest and care. As also has been touched on by the earlier speaker, there are about 1.3 billion people globally experience disability. And of course, we do know digital assistive tech has been developing and does help them become more independent. AI is adding to that, and it's a real opportunity, but we've also got to be thinking about how it will be adopted in the correct way. So there are known ongoing barriers. There are high cost, limited availability, low awareness, lack of trained personnel to help people use the technology, and of course inadequate finance to be able to afford. Next slide. So the methodology that we used to produce this report, it had an expert international committee. There was a survey to about 800 people and focus groups. It involved also a survey of members of the British public. And in fact, over 100 experts were involved in the evidence gathering for the report. We also commissioned pieces on disability data and also small data and how you can be using that within the context of AI. And also there's a case study analysis looking at the UK, US, India and Kenya to look at the state of art in this space. Next slide. Just to summarize, this slide really is the high-level summary of some of the outputs, and it comes under the titles of include, access and improve. And there's important under include that technologies must be designed inclusively and must involve the end users. In terms of access, that we need to be better at providing digital assistive technology that's affordable, and that we have the digital infrastructures to be able to use the tech. And another, a third pillar here is the improve, is in terms of disability data, that it must be high quality and representative, and there is a long way to go to be able to achieve that. Next slide. So looking at the recommendations, under transformed disability data collection, here it's important to shift from the narrow identity-based definitions we use today for disability to ones that really represent functional challenges and limitations of the individuals. And we all know this underpins a lot of AI work, that better data leads to better technology design and also policy making. Another recommendation, can we go back, is to recognize smartphones as an assistive technology. We have things like white sticks, your hearing aids, but today smartphones are not deemed to be an example, but they are very much a vital assistive tools, and that governments should treat these smartphones as like other assistive technologies. And finally, embedding co-design from day one. Involve disabled people at all stages of development, and that means that the tech solutions are going to be grounded in lived experience. Next slide. And just to place that in the words of one of the engineers who was involved in this report, Dr. Vince Cerf, who said, often people who make software don't have intuition about how to make it accessible. Putting a blindfold on does not give you intuition about what works or how for someone who is blind. You really need to understand what does and doesn't work. Next slide. And now to place that in perspective, I'm going to end with a short video, which was from some of the participants in this report, who are going to be expressing their views of technology in their own worlds. Can we play the video, please?
How digital assistive technology has made a big impact in my life. I would argue it's the other way around. The less I notice the digital assistive technology, the better.
Assistive technology has enabled me to have a voice. I can also go on the internet, which I couldn't do before.
Sophie Bay uses her head rest, her head to type. So when she wants to say something, she uses her eyes.
That's right.
Yeah, that's right.
Lots I can't use anyway because I can't use a phone myself. This takeaway is my independence. I would like a mobile phone that is eye gaze. Also, I would like something that says what I am thinking.
Hello, my name is Sahira Khan. I'm a freelance artist and creative. So I use my iPhone, laptop, and I use this every day. The big barrier is when there's no Wi-Fi or I have no data. That's really difficult to access anything. I might not have insurance for my iPhone or my laptop, and if it is damaged or broken, I know it's quite expensive to get this repaired. Also, to use the remote services, you have to pay for that, and that can be expensive as well. I think it's be amazing if the deaf person could create the technology, because they would know what to look for, they know what the perspective is. If it's a hearing person creating the technology, the hearing person needs to understand what are the needs of the deaf people, what are the access needs.
It's so important, it's so important that disabled people are involved in the designing of assistive technology. I think I can tell literally straight away if a disabled person has been involved in the design or they haven't. I think technology definitely has a place, and I use it all the time. It can't be the solution to every single problem. And people helping people is, in my opinion, always going to be necessary.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Professor Alison Noble. Now we have an exciting multi-stakeholder panel. For the introductions and the panel itself, I'd like to hand over this to Nipun.
Thank you, Yogini. And thank you everybody for joining us here. Am I audible? Is my mic working? Yeah?
Folks in the back here.
Can everybody hear me? Yes. Yeah? Okay, I just need to put my head down and speak, I guess. Yeah, I think we need mics with AI as well, I guess, that recognize.
He's increased the game, so you can talk.
Yeah, okay, yeah. Thank you. And Agastya, that's a challenge for you, to come up with the mic with AI maybe, yeah.
There we go.
But thank you everybody for joining us here, and I think it's great that at a major AI Impact Summit, a discussion on disability has been integrated. Disability is such an intersectional issue, and often at these major international conversations it's forgotten. So kudos to METI and kudos to DPWD and the Royal Society as well, who have partnered with us on this event, and thank you so much for that. I would like to thank Manmeet ma'am, who gave a very powerful speech on what the government is doing towards disability and technology. And I think one simple example of how much he has embraced technology is that if you tag her on LinkedIn, you'll always get a response. So thank you so much, Manmeet ma'am. I think you're going to get 100 tags after today. And I would like to... Whatever, you can keep sitting as well if you want. Yeah, you can butt in whenever you want. And thank you so much, Professor Alison Noble as well. What a wonderful presentation on how technology is empowering persons with disabilities. And I think my takeaway was really from that video where it was said that when we really look at any technology, we can find out whether people with disabilities have been used in decision making in it as well, you know, to see how inclusive they are. So I have 4 powerful panelists with me, and I have very limited time. So how we are going to go about it is that we are going to give 3 minutes to everybody, and I'm going to ask one specific question to each and every panelist. There's Surabhi there in the front row. Can you raise your hand, Surabhi, for the panelists? She'll be having a timer for accessibility requirements for Amar and Agastya, and also mention what the timer says after 2 minutes, when 2 minutes are up, so that you can wrap up in 3 minutes. Oh, you can see it? Okay, great. Sorry. And we're going to start with the first panelist here, Dr. Andrew Fleming, who is right in the middle. His team in the T20 World Cup has almost lost all matches, but ended up winning them all. So I'm sure he's charged up here. Andrew Fleming is the British High Commissioner to East and Northeast India. And apart from that, he also lives with a learning disability. I was on a panel with him at British Council a couple of weeks back, and I was really impressed with the passion he comes in with towards learning disabilities in that sense. And he's a big embracer of technology as well. You can find him, believe it or not, as Andrew007 Fleming on Instagram. Am I right?
UK. Andrew007 UK.
Andrew007 UK. So he's the true James Bond for disability. Dr. Andrew, my question to you really is that on early education, you know, drawing on UK's experience with SEND and your own experience, as a lived experience with dyslexia and dyspraxia, how have you seen AI interventions in early education empower persons with disabilities? Yeah, so over to you.
Sure. If I think back, there's a phrase, isn't there, that school days are the happiest days of your life, and I can tell you that mine in the 70s, as somebody with neurodiverse profile but not recognized at all, it was the most miserable and unhappy days of my life. I famously remember when my head teacher came on my last day of primary school and told me I'd be lucky to get a job picking rubbish. Luckily she was wrong. Not that there's anything wrong with picking rubbish, but it was very, very difficult. I remember the first time that anything even remotely electronic came into my classroom was when I was 11. Only the most clever kids were allowed to go near it, so I wasn't allowed to touch it. So that was my first experience with anything like this. But, you know, I look ahead. AI-driven interventions in early education have been revolutionizing support for children with learning disabilities in the last decade or two. I have a child who's also neurodiverse, so I have that experience as well as my own experience. And I've seen how this has impacted children under UK's Special Educational Needs for Disabilities framework, which is led by our Department for Education. Recent advances include adaptive learning platforms that tailor content to be meeting individual needs, speech-to-text tools, and real-time feedback systems. So as somebody, you know, my profile is dyslexia and dyspraxia. My younger son is dyslexic and also has ADHD. I have really witnessed firsthand how powerfully AI-powered reading aids and organizational tools have been able to foster much more independence, much more confidence, and much more academic progress. And these technologies, complemented by traditional support, provide personalized scaffolding which reduce barriers and enable educators to intervene more effectively and compassionately. So this is how I see it in the UK to now. Is everything perfect and right yet? Absolutely not. There's still a long way to go. There's a lot of inconsistencies you know, a lot of things that have been designed to support people with disabilities may not, as I've already come across, been supported by people who actually have those experiences themselves. I think what is really important, though, in the UK, and as I've seen different ideas, different pilots come and go, different ways my son has been helped, is that, you know, some initiatives have been stopped because scalability or other issues of fairness, as you mentioned, ma'am, you know, haven't been quite right. So the lesson is responsible failure is part of inclusive innovation, especially when vulnerable groups are affected. And I think if we keep that in our mind wherever, that will also be very powerful. Thank you.
Thank you so much. From Andrew, I'm going to go to Agastya. Agastya is the Director of Concept Engineering at Meta, and a lot of Meta's interventions in terms of accessibility, I think, are because of him. So thank you so much for making inclusive technology and what you're doing towards it. Agastya, I'm going to ask you two questions, two interrelated questions. One really is on accessibility and privacy. You know, there's this thinking in civil society especially that accessibility and privacy are enemies of each other, and to get one you need to sacrifice the other. So what really is the right balance between the two, and how do we ensure it? And a second question is on AI bias, because a lot of people have been writing to me specifically after, you know, we named this panel that AI for disability inclusion, that why you're not talking about AI and bias as well. So as AI scales and becomes embedded across everyday environments, it is amplifying default exclusions by learning from mainstream data. So how can AI companies really get away from that AI bias? What is AI bias? And yeah, so over to you.
Excellent. Thank you for the very kind introduction. I think we'll start with the privacy question. Of course, this is a very touchy one, and there's some guardrails maybe that I shouldn't cross, but I'll do my best. I actually want to pose a question back to you in the audience, and I don't know the answer to it, but I think it's a good thought experiment. Suppose everybody in the world were blind, and somebody developed a technology that gave one the ability to see. How might that be received by society? It would probably be considered a grave transgression on privacy, because cultural norms would assume that vision with light was not a thing. But over time, as long as the technology were democratized, I presume that society would adapt. I don't know whether this is a morally right or wrong thing, though, but I think that's what would happen. I think we're at a very interesting crossroads right now, where the development of technologies, particularly with AI and LLMs, has the potential to do amazingly good things. Provide people without hearing the ability to understand speech, provide people without vision the ability to understand what's going on at a distance. But also it opens up a lot of very compelling questions, right? People have a societal understanding that when they're out in public, they're probably not being recorded, and that may be an assumption that is of the past. I know that society will eventually take on.
Sorry to interrupt. I
Sir.
think we have a bit of time, so let's give everybody 5 minutes instead of 3 minutes. No.
Okay. So I don't know when it will happen, and I'm not even sure where the right balance is. I do think that, you know, both sides of the conversation, I'm not trying to equivocate here, but I think both sides will probably be right to some extent. I think that the AI enthusiast camp has made analogies towards, for example, cell phones, right? When cell phones first became a thing and cameras were, smartphones maybe, cameras became ubiquitous, there was a lot of concern about the privacy ramifications of that. But society's kind of adapted. I think that the pro-privacy camp probably has some compelling things to say about that as well. I'm not sure all that societal adaptation is a good thing. I just read an article in, I think it was the Wall Street Journal, about how people don't dance in public as much anymore, right? Because they're worried about being recorded. So overall, I think the future will be different. I'm very enthusiastic about, you know, seeing my mother, who cannot see, have the ability to be independent and get from point A to point B with an autonomous vehicle. But I do think that there's going to be some interesting ramifications on privacy, and I don't have an amazing answer for it. I think your second question is around bias. And I think I don't have to wax too long on this, because I think it was answered beautifully during the keynote. Nothing about us without us is a phrase I've heard a lot in the context of developing assistive technology, right? Building with people who are actually going to use the stuff is the best way to make it good. I think a model is only as good as its training data, and so the critical thing is to make sure that you're involving people with disabilities in the planning process of how you train, and that you're collecting training data that's relevant. I also think that it's extremely important for people who are designing technology to not think about the disability community as other or an out group, because I think there's actually a bi-directional benefit here. When we develop technologies that meet the needs of what a mainstream designer might consider the corner cases or the extremes, we actually make it better for everybody. And there's so many examples of that. In the United States, we call it the curb cut effect. If you look at sidewalks, there's divots in the curbs. They're ubiquitous because of legislation to protect the rights of people with mobility issues and wheelchairs. But anybody who is using a stroller, shopping cart, luggage benefits from it. So I think there's actually an economic incentive, even if it's not apparent in the short term, to technology companies developing AI models to make sure their training data is inclusive. It's not just about good press or good PR. Thank you.
Thank you so much. There's some problem with the mic again, so I think a tech person is coming to rectify it. Yogini, is the person coming to correct it?
Do you want to just talk to me?
Oh yeah, I'll just hold it otherwise. Can you just give him a hand? Can you give him a hand? I'll just hold it. Yeah. So hi Amar, I'm going to come to you next, and thank you so much Agastya for that beautiful presentation. I don't think it's working. I'll just yeah. Can you all hear me? Yes. Yeah.
Why don't we just working? Okay. Okay.
ये ऊपर करना थोड़ा ऊपर कर दें और ऊपर कर
Or if you want to show that one.
yeah can you hear me now yeah is this better yeah okay thank you so much Agastya, and I think you answered both those questions beautifully, and you also concluded by saying that there's a business case for accessibility in AI. Before going to my next speaker, I'm also going to say there's a legal case for accessibility in AI, because if you don't make your software accessible, this person is going to sue you. That's Amar Jain, co-founder of Mission Accessibility. Amar, thank you so much for joining us. What I would like to know from you is that both as a lived experience as a person with a visual disability in India and as a lawyer with a visual disability, how has AI really empowered your life, and what are the challenges you still face while using various AI tools?
Sure. Thank you, Nipun. AI has the potential to either include people at scale or exclude people at scale, right? So when AI came into my life, it really offered me 4 things. Access to information. So for example, as a lawyer, I was not able to read handwritten documents earlier. I was not able to consume information embedded within screenshots. I was not able to consume information which was screen shared on a Teams call. But with the AI coming in, I was able to do all of this. What this offered me is a professional competitiveness, and I was able to prove that I am a person who can deliver service with excellence, right? Information about accessibility of the environment around me, right? Whether it is reading signboards, whether it is identifying objects, whether it is access to environment, information around navigation, both in my professional life as well as in my personal life or social life. When I'm in a conference, I'm able to read the printed documents that are handed as part of the agenda papers. When I am in my personal life, if there's a girl with blindness who wants to test pregnancy without telling anybody else for keeping it private, the person is able to take a screenshot from the result and scan it and understand what it is conveying, right? So in that sense, AI has been a great enabler. But I'll also point out what are the current challenges. In terms of current challenges, one problem that we face is lack of inclusive training data sets, right? Or a discriminatory design. So for example, when facial verification was designed, it was assumed that it would work for everybody. As a result, the eKYC did not work for persons with disabilities. As a result, people with blindness were not able to do facial verification, biometric verification in some cases. That prompted me to go to Supreme Court to get a judgment out on that, right? So those are some of the ways in which AI can exclude. But what is the way forward, if I may say so, right? Way forward has to be, because there is a strong law. Today, the problem is not absence of law. The problem is absence of enforcement mechanism. And that is what we need to fix today. So making sure that at the time of procurement and contractual commitments, it is ensured that accessibility has to be ensured by design. Accessibility audits, accessibility conformance reports are a must, without which the product should not get access to market. Also, the fact that people with disabilities should be involved as part of testing and design are some of the key components that we should focus on to make AI more inclusive. Thank you.
Thank you. Our last speaker is someone I wanted to come to last because I think everybody in the disability sector today knows him. Mr. Tukaram Munde who heads disability in Maharashtra. He's really a people's officer, and I think he's shaking up the disability ecosystem in more ways than one. And I was just interacting with him before this panel, and he was telling me about how AI has really played a major role in terms of governance in Maharashtra, specifically for disabled people. So I would love to know how you are using AI, sir, and for governance in that sense, and what can other states learn from you?
Thank you, Nipun. AI, as every speaker has spoken and everybody knows, is a futuristic technology. But it has its own challenges about its inclusiveness, accessibility, availability, affordability. All these we need to include by thinking, by design, particularly for persons with disabilities. As Amar was saying, law is very powerful, but implementation is a challenge, particularly about whether it's digital content or accessible websites or portal. That's a big challenge for the persons with disabilities. To access services, leave alone just information. So unless the persons with disability get services which he or she is expected to get, either from the public sector or the private sector, the tool will not be truly enabler and empowering in true sense. What in Maharashtra we have been doing is using technology to the large. Now we have designed one single portal, unified portal for persons with disabilities in Maharashtra. It's about to be inaugurated in a week's time. What it is end-to-end solution for each persons with disabilities, whether he wants to access all the services of government, whether he wants to avail some scheme to apply, or he wants to know about what schemes are available for persons with disabilities, not only in the persons with disabilities department, but different other departments. Now the portal is called Divyang Sahayak Portal, and it's available on divyangsahayakportal.maharashtra.gov.in. Once you log in, then you can profile once. Some details, information is sought by you. And once that he does, the portal does profiling, you are popped up with the information that what are the schemes you are eligible for automatically. So you come to know these are the schemes you are eligible based on the information which are fed in the system. And you can directly apply on that. So while applying also, again, the portal or the application does not call for the information which are already fed in, it fetches from the back end. And the information which is available with different portals of the government is accessed by API. For example, UDID data is accessed by API. Even Aadhaar card data is accessed by API. So you don't need, the government doesn't need to ask for that data, just only number or something basic information will seek, and system itself will fetch that data. Based on that, there will be prediction, or there will be analysis of the profiling, and the person will be able to know what schemes he is entitled for, where is it available, what are those criteria for eligibility, what are who are eligible, all those things will be available at one click. That is first part. Second is, what we are doing is, as this sector is very diverse sector, and we need all institutions, private organizations, citizens organizations to be partnering with us, so that we can really empower persons with disabilities. And as Act itself envisages that NGOs and institutions need to be empowered, and they have to be collaborators. And they need to register with the government so that they are implementing as per the law of accessibility, availability, or Persons with Disabilities Act, what we call 2016 Act. Now to do that, we have all institutions registered there, or we have the information who have been deregistered, or somebody has a complaint about it, they can really go on that and use that. Over and above that, we have already started with chatbot. It rolled out in the month of November, and it is a grievance redressal chatbot and information chatbot. Now, since 7th November, we have got more than 5,000 grievances, of which almost except 300 all are resolved within an average time taken for them resolving grievances is 5 days. So we are tracking that. We get the information. We are analyzing that grievances, what type of grievances are more, and you will be surprised to know that most of the grievances which we received are about discrimination, about accessibility in the services. That's why the solution, with the help of AI and other tools, I think this is just the beginning, where this portal can really work as a one-stop solution for all the issues the persons with disability wants to deal with the government and the institutions. I think there is a lot many things to do, lot more thinking is to be done, but I think we have begun and we can go a long way forward. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. I'm going to open it up to the audience just for one question. Okay, why don't you?
So I have a question from Nipun sir. The person with disability in India, as statistics say, 70% live in a rural area, and more than 70% of all the disability statistics are unemployed. So how AI can uplift the person with disability in an aspect of employment, and they can be more streamlined in a employability aspect of inclusion of AI through that?
Thank you. There's another person with the mic, so we'll close questions after that.
Yeah.
We're just going to take these two questions.
I'm sticking my head out here. I design for Aadhaar. So I've been leading some of the transformation of a new app, and that Supreme Court judgment on face authentication, which I believe some 8 lakh people don't get access to, are some of the things which are very difficult problems to solve, and we are thinking about it. So I'm a designer by background, and I'm leading that effort. One of the things I wanted the panel to talk about, anybody, is the whole idea of multilingual and multimodal. How are the technology people looking at how you can combine both these to enable the access, whether of whatever kind of disability. This is some of the direction I'm thinking of, and my personal exploration through the kind of experiments we are trying inside UIDAI, where I am currently consulting, is can AI help reduce the cognitive load of switching modalities and extend the language? So I would like any comments. And I've earned a lot of bad karma every day with my design decisions. And
yes, thank you. You want to answer the employment question? Okay, I think the mics have been taken away from them. So yeah, would you like to answer the AI, how can AI lead to employment opportunities for people with disabilities? Sure. Yeah. Okay. Because you are at a company heavily in AI, so.
All right. Yeah. I have a cheeky answer to the employment question. I think that the common narrative around AI and the labor market is that as AI advances, it's going to be able to automate any job, and people won't have jobs, and work is going to be harder to find, and all that stuff. I don't want to trivialize that. Every change in the world has friction, but I think AI actually provides the potential for a huge amount of the population that has been artificially excluded from the labor market to participate. I reflect on my parents. I owe a lot to both my dad and my mom. My dad is conventionally probably considered a big ingredient to my success. He was IIT Kanpur 1968 gold medalist physics. So of course I got a lot of really good stuff from him for my education. My mom, if you look at the resume, she went to undergrad, SUNY Purchase, and has essentially been a housewife since. Not any problem with that. Dedicating your life to your family is amazing, but many of the skills I have that have led to my success in the workplace, the ability to communicate, connect with people, come from her. My mom is blind, and so when she was in high school and in undergrad, There were so many opportunities for her that were denied. The ability to access the classroom, the ability to get notes from the teacher, or the ability to take standardized tests were denied to her. And as a result, she did not get those educational credentials that perhaps my dad and many others had. So while she's very proud of where her life took her, and I'm very happy that I got to grow up with her, I think there's an alternate history where she was the IIT gold medalist equivalent and had an amazing career. So I think of it this way. How many people in the world right now are not working that would like to, and there's some artificial barrier? I think almost all those barriers can be fixed with AI. So that's my answer.
Thank you. Anybody wants to answer the second question? I can be. Yeah. Very briefly, please.
Sure. Multimodal authentication works very well and beautifully. We have examples where tech companies in global have included multimodal authentication methods, because this includes diversity of people, and if you have multiple modes of authentication, many people with different diversities are able to authenticate themselves without relying on a single mode of authentication. So thank you.
Sure. Thank you. Manmeet ma'am, any closing remarks from you before we're going to launch our collisions logo today? Before that, any closing remarks from you?
I think the key to listening to all of you makes it very, very profoundly clear that for AI to move ahead in our country, where we are still building our AI stack, we don't need to retrofit like the modern or the far developed AI countries in the world. We are still nascent, and I think right now, if we, whatever AI technology solutions we are providing, we have to make sure that they are affordable, economical, widely spread to the rural areas, because that's where most of our people with disabilities live. It should be economical because it should be used. We all know that we have this great infrastructure, the digital public infrastructure available there. People use smartphones, so people can use any kind of AI-based, phone-based app to improve their lives and help in their disability. And there is no technology without having people with disabilities being a part of that designing team. So nothing without them, for them. That goes out very, very strongly and resonates. I was just thinking that in public procurement, if we can start having companies ensuring that they give something known as that it's a disability certified product, that it looks into all aspects of disability in a way, or something known as disability impact assessment certification, that could be something where the government can move forward, I think, on that.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, ma'am. And ma'am, you spoke about public procurement. We're going to come to you for that and much more through the Accessibility Coalition that we are launching at TQH. The Accessibility Coalition is really an alliance of disability organizations coming together across the country, across disabilities. What we noticed is that what unfortunately happens is that most organizations are working only on one disability, and it's not really an intersectional approach. So we've already had an election for the Accessibility Coalition across the 20 plus founding NGOs, and Mr. George Ibrahim has been selected as the president. This is the logo which we are unveiling. I'll just read out the image description of the logo for people with visual disabilities. The logo features two distinct purple puzzles being brought together. On the left, a solid hand holds an outlined piece with a rounded tab. On the right, an outlined hand holds a solid lavender rectangle which are matching indentation. While the pieces are shaped to interlock perfectly, they maintain their individual identities through contrasting textures and style. The acronym TAC is cut into the base of the solid piece with the full name, the Accessibility Coalition, centered below. This coalition is not open just to disability organizations, but also any private sector company that's working on disability. One of our main focus areas initially is going to be on tech, before which we go beyond that. So feel free to get in touch with us if you really want to partner with us. There are just 24 seconds left, so thank you everybody. I want to thank the sign language interpreters as well from ISLRTC, and thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much for being here. And I think I'll request everybody to let the speakers first pass from that gate, and then you can go out. The India AI team is just giving some mementos to the speakers. Yeah.
Sorry? She was saying the speakers will leave first, but we're going to get mementos. Yeah. Something on the government. Yes. Zakia, can you hold my hand?
A leader who inspires. A team that turns vision into reality. A moment when courage meets action. That's when change begins. It's never an easy path, but it is always a brave one. That makes the difference. In a world ready for change, every insight is a spark. We turn these insights into opportunities that stand out to drive transformation, deliver unique outcomes, and build lasting trust. With people, clients, and communities at the heart of our work, we bring together diverse perspectives and skills. Our inclusive culture inspires confidence and empowers change, a reflection of our core values. Guided by innovation and purpose, we help solve real-world problems, transforming obstacles into opportunity, because a lead.
Hello everyone. We request you all to please, the delegates to move from the second case, that's the end of the gate, and leave space for the speakers to leave from the first one. We have another session in next 4 minutes, so we request your cooperation.